Under the same moon, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be back for News at Noon. And today is the big deadline for the Epstein files to be released. Will they be released? That's what everybody wants to know. In today's show, we're going to go through various photos that have come out from the Epstein files. But before we get to that, there is good news in a sense in regards to the Rhode Island shooter. The news has come out that he is no longer living after allegedly taking the lives of other individuals. Let's get to it. Let's check it out.
All right, so this morning, the man accused of the shooting at Brown University, he is dead. Investigators say the suspect is also responsible for killing an MIT professor. And that shooter, listen to this, he has ties to South Florida. His last known address is here.
Some news reports are saying he actually knew the MIT professor, so that's quite interesting as well.
In South Florida, in Northeast Miami-Dade. That's where we find CBS News Miami's Morgan Reiner. She's a reporter in Ives Estates. Morgan, someone did answer the door there.
It was brief, but the person inside of the home that's listed as the suspect's last known address said that he did not know the suspect. Now, the break in the case, according to investigators, was interviewing an anonymous Reddit poster. 3 days ago, the person described seeing the suspect, 48-year-old Claudio Neves Valente, with a gray Nissan Sentra. Investigators tracked the car to a rental company.
Now, for the last couple of days, they said there was a second individual they thought was involved with this incident, but it appears that they've stopped talking about that person, so perhaps the person could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
In Boston, where the suspect used his real name on the application. Authorities also discovered the suspect's storage unit in Salem, where his body was found. School officials say Valente was a physics PhD student at Brown University between 2000 and 2003 before he dropped out. Police say he's also believed to have killed MIT professor Nuno Loureiro Monday night. Both attended the same school program back in their native Portugal.
Our work is not done. There are many questions that need to be answered.
He was used.
You know, it was in the news reports that whoever did this knew the school quite well, knew a lot of inside information. So this explains how come he would have known that the doors perhaps would have been open, familiar with the school, and also knowing the MIT professor. Now, keep in mind that this MIT professor was unalived at his home. So this person actually went to his house and took his life. We're going to get to that next.
Using a phone that was out.
All right, and you can stay with CBS Miami on air and online as we dig into the alleged Brown University.
So what do you guys think about that? Are you relieved in any regards? Or any of you guys actually from the Rhode Island area? I was just in Massachusetts for a day trip, so quite familiar with that area as well. But I would imagine that a lot of people would be relieved, especially if your child is at that school. It's nice that we have Stella, we have Eric, we have Deborah here. It's nice to see you guys here. Now we're going to get to the actual neighbors and what the neighbors had to say about the MIT professor. A lot of them actually heard the shots when his life was taken.
Shot. The father was shot multiple times.
A typically quiet North Brookline neighborhood.
Guys, it's nice to be back for News at Noon. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We have to let everybody know that the news program at noon is back.
Rattled by gunfire. The Norfolk County DA's office says 47-year-old Nuno Loureiro was shot Monday in his home off Gibbs Street and died the next morning.
At about 9 o'clock, I heard three loud bangs. I thought at first it was somebody in our apartment kicking in the door or something. So I called the neighbors and they said no, they thought it was gunshots.
Neighbors tell us Loureiro had young kids and lived in the first floor corner unit of this building. This man says he lived next door to the family.
He's a neighbor and a good.
You know, we're living in a tough time because people actually, you have a professional job. Sometimes we're vocal. I'm very vocal, right? And people often will research you, find out where you live. And in this case, they came and took his life. We've seen that also when it comes to Charlie Kirk. Remember what happened with him, right? So people are becoming extremists. And if they don't agree with you, they seek you out.
Neighbor, hey, quiet.
Loureiro is originally from Portugal and has been a professor at MIT since 2016. Just in May, he was named the director of the university's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. In a statement, MIT said, "Our deepest sympathies are with his family, students, colleagues, and all those who are grieving."
We have shell casings in the lobby. We have projectiles impacted in the wall.
Neighbors tell us police swarmed Gibbs Street Monday night, and today investigators were seen leaving the building with evidence bags.
We heard a really loud.
Okay, so we have Fanuel in the audience. He says vaccines are destroying brains. So you think people are becoming more violent because of the vaccines? Is that what you're saying? Shout out to you, Sharice. Nice to have you here.
Loud noise. I thought it sounded like a crashing noise. My husband heard it, and he said it sounded like gunshots.
The community is shaken by the tragedy. Anne Greenwald posted this note on her neighbors' doors, asking they place a candle in their window facing Gibbs Street at 7 tonight in the professor's memory.
We're living in such terrible times right now that it seems like violence is just happening everywhere.
I'm walking around. I got children in the playground right around the corner. Be nice to know that.
So keep in mind that the MIT professor, he had young children too. Thankfully, they were not unalive as well. But the neighbors are quite concerned, as you would be too, if this happened in your neighborhood as well.
The shooter has been taken in custody.
Okay, very good. So, especially we're seeing these instances. I was just in court for Luigi Mangione, very similar case where the alleged victim, right? He was pointed out, found online, perhaps research, and then the individual tracked him down into broad daylight in a city that he was actually traveling to for some sort of meeting or seminar, and he was shot right on the street. Something to think about. We're living in some terrible times where people can track other people very easily, and in most cases they try to get away, but in this case he did not get away, but it did take quite some time to find this individual, and he had already taken his own life in his own storage shed. Now we're going to move on talking about Donald Trump and what's happening with Venezuela. A lot of people are concerned about Venezuela because of the way or the nature that these boats are being taken out. Many Americans, especially people in the comments, the chat, say, well, how do we know that they're really drug boats? That's a good concern. Other people, especially those that are familiar with boats, often say, well, these are speed boats. We don't see any fishing poles or anything of that sort. So it's probably indicative of some type of drug activity. Well, Donald Trump actually gives us a reason as to why he's going after Venezuela. A lot of people say, well, it has nothing to do with the drugs. We feel like America, the government, the president has an ulterior motive. Well, Donald Trump actually breaks it down. Let's get to it.
Is the goal of the blockade with Venezuela to regime change? It's a blockade. How can they let anybody going through that should be going through? You remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil.
Okay, so here's the president saying that Venezuela, remember, they took all of our oil. So a lot of you that have been in the comment section saying that, oh, this is not about drugs, this is about oil, and the United States wants to take over and control that oil currency. Well, the president is actually backing you up, so let's get to it.
From not that long ago, and we want it back, but they took it. They He illegally took it. Getting land, oil rights, whatever we had.
He did point out that they illegally took those the oil rights.
They took it away because we had a president that maybe wasn't watching, but they're not going to do that.
So again, he's blaming Sleepy Joe, as he always calls him, Sleepy Joe. He says we had a president that was not watching, and this is how Venezuela did it.
We want it back. They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back.
Okay, so the president wants it back, no doubt about it. He wants the oil back. Already, they have taken control, seized the oil tanker rigs, right? The boats, the big ones. But now Venezuela has put their army at sea to protect these oil rigs as they're moving about. Also, this week, we saw that Iran, they actually seized oil tankers as well. So it seems to be a big issue here. Now, just yesterday, in regards to this whole situation in Venezuela, another boat was blasted out at sea. Yes, indeed. We actually have footage of it. Let's get to it. Okay, so here you see the boat at sea. Let's go back a little bit. There you go. There's the boat. I don't see any fishing poles, by the way. It's blasted to pieces. There you have it, folks. And there was 5 people aboard this boat. Sometimes they double blast these boats as well. Here's another view of the boat. You can see it moving rather fast. Okay, I was recently out in Colombia for a fishing tour. And believe you me, we were moving that fast, and I got so sick on the boat heading out to our fishing spot. But believe you me, when we were fishing, the boat was not moving that fast. So for those who doubt this, that's noted. But again, a good argument is made that you don't really see anything happening. Now, we're not the specialists. There was a guy, actually the president of Colombia, said that one of the individuals that was taken out, he had been fishing for some 30 years, never had any dealings with drugs per se. But we have to trust the government, right? That's the way forward. At least that's what we're taught, right? Or told to. Now, the president of the United States says that he does not have to go through Congress, and he's actually questioned about that. Hey, why haven't you gone through Congress? And he gives a reason. He tells us why he feels he doesn't. Let's get to it.
Any authorization from Congress for any land attacks on cartels in Venezuela?
For anyone?
For any land attacks on drug cartels in Venezuela?
I wouldn't mind telling them, but it's not a big deal. I don't have to tell them. It's been proven. But I wouldn't mind at all. I just hope they wouldn't leak it. You have people leak it.
So the president is saying that he doesn't have to go through Congress, tell them what he's doing, because they can't even hold water. Congress, every time something is presented, they leak the information to the media. And therefore, if you study the art of war, you're letting the enemy know what you're coming to do. So he makes a valid point. I know a lot of people do not like the president, but in this case, the point is pretty valid. But then again, the average American probably considers not going through Congress. Now you're totally trusting the president, who could potentially get us into some sort of war that we might not be ready for, especially when they have Russia's backing, right? Vladimir Putin has on many occasions pushed back on the United States for taking over, seizing the boats, and also for any of the actions involving Venezuela.
They are politicians and they leak like a sieve, but I'd have no problem doing that.
On that, Mr. President.
Yes, please.
Mr. President.
Okay, so Fanuel says we have a satanic agenda that most seem to ignore. Okay, thank you very much. Eric says double tap the screen and share. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Also, Fanuel says gang stalking in America is real, and that's a real big problem. I definitely agree with you. Thank you for your comment. Okay, now Donald Trump is going to speak on also what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. I found it quite interesting as well.
Meeting this weekend on Ukraine in Florida. What are you hoping will come out of that meeting?
Well, they're getting close to something, but I hope Ukraine moves quickly. I hope Ukraine moves quickly because Russia's there. And, every time they take too much time, then Russia changes their mind. 27,000 soldiers were killed last month. Think of that. What do you think of that, doctors? 27,000. It's like a half a football.
Now, the president has expressed his concern about this continuation of the war. Sometimes within a week, I think he says 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers died between Russia and Ukraine. He's been trying to end the war, but it appears that Ukraine does not want to give up their land. And I can understand that. I'm sure you would understand it too. So that's a big cause of contention when it comes to this story. Russia wants it all, especially the land that they have already taken control of. And Ukraine says that they're not having it, and they want more of a solidarity with the United States to help them reacquire what they lost and also be able to live without war. Now, a lot of Americans feel that once Russia gets this deal squared away, and let's say, for instance, with Donald Trump's backing, they take a certain portion of land, it's only a matter of time before Russia comes back for more. And that's why a lot of these measures are trying to be secured so that the Ukrainian people can have a sense of peace and not just some fake moment of time. At any rate, let's go through a few of the comments before we move on to Epstein. Sheila says TMZ just reported he's schizophrenic. Okay, are you talking about Donald Trump? So TMZ reported that he's schizophrenic. Tell us in the comments. Thank you very much, Sheila. And not doing well. Okay, all right. John Doe says, good, let Russia have Ukraine. It is a disgusting country. Okay, all right, thank you. A lot of people feel that way about Ukraine because there's a lot of rumors about trafficking and all of these type of concepts. So I get where you're coming from. Co-sider says, LOL. Okay, it isn't yours to give away. Exactly. All right, good point. Thank you for that as well. Guys, take a moment, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We're back to the News at Noon. So it's a beautiful thing to be back with you guys. I was covering Luigi Mangione's hearing, and that concluded yesterday. So by May 18th, we should hear the results of the judge's decision in regards to that case as well. John Doe says Ukraine is Epstein on steroids. Okay, talk about it. Tell us all about it. Okay, we welcome in Abe, Sharice. Okay, quite a few people. Thank you. A lot of new names. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. All right, so let's get to the Epstein files. We know that today is the deadline for the Trump administration, the president, to release these files. And we keep having this big debate as to why the files are not being released, right? Why do you think they're not being released? Do you think it's the Democrats? Put a 1 in the chat if you think the Democrats are behind the Epstein files not being released. Or put a 2 in the chat if you think it's all Donald Trump. He's the reason why we haven't seen the files. We do have a few of the photos that we're going to go through now.
Of the House Oversight Committee today released 68 new photos, and these are absolutely insane photos. So we're going to go through them one by one. The first batch here are architectural diagrams drafted by a company based in the Virgin Islands, and we can actually see on the right-hand side here that it says Little St. James, U.S. Virgin Islands. This, of course, would be Jeffrey Epstein's infamous island. I'm curious why they chose to include these diagrams in this release here, because
so guys, grab your lunch or what have you, because this video is going to be about 20 minutes, but we're going to go through each of these photos that have been released as of today.
The diagrams only depict these two structures built on either side of a dock on the western side of the island. What's more interesting is this document, which details Jeffrey Epstein's plans for Great St. James, which is the island that is larger than Little St. James, obviously.
Now, as we watch this, I want you to ask yourself, how does Epstein has all this money to develop all of these islands? Now, he already had an island, and he's looking to develop even bigger and better islands. And what's really happening, because we see that young girls, the fact that it's named Lolita, that signifies a book that was written about a man in love with a 12-year-old. So it goes to show how sick this operation was. We know how he met his demise, but the key question is, who was really backing Epstein?
And sits sort of to the northwest of it. We can see on the right-hand side here that there are plans for a cabana/tiki bar, an 80-foot tall flagpole, and a massive 60 by 100 pre-engineered storage building. Beneath that are a pool house, a tent, something I can't read there, a heli house, presumably near a helipad, a guest house, office, another house.
Okay, so as far as who is backing Epstein, Wayne says it was the Jews. So he thinks that Israel was behind it. We've heard that from Tucker Carlson. If you follow Candace Owens, that's something that she narrates pretty much all the time, that Israel was involved with that, although we do not know. John Doe says Trump has released more of the files than any other previous administration. It's funny to me, people get stuck into the conspiracy versus the facts. Good job, John Doe. Good comment there. It says Epstein was backed by the Democratic funded NGOs. Okay, talk about it.
And a word on the bottom there that I can't quite make out, maybe observatory. If you can make that out, let me know in the comments. The next photo.
For those that are just coming in, we're going through the Epstein files one by one, so you'll know what has been released, right? And then we'll see, the deadline is actually today. We'll be reporting as the files come out and if we can make sense of any of it.
Photo appears to be the interior of Jeffrey Epstein's famous temple. We saw other photos of the interior in the previous drop, which we can see here on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. The top right depicting that strange celestial themed scene, and the bottom right is a screenshot of a famous drone video taken by an
So Epstein had some sort of temple with all of these photos. It was kind of creepy, if you ask me. And a lot of these young girls were coming in from Russia, United States, all over the place. You could only imagine what type of setting was involved here.
Named person by the name of Rusty Shackelford. For many years, that was the only glimpse at the inside of this strange temple, which was the fixation of interest for most people when it came to Jeffrey Epstein's island. And now we can see that the same two mattresses are on display in this photo. This photo depicts a structure that previously we hadn't been able to see really into. It's a gigantic green structure buried amid various palm trees and things like that. And it looks to be some sort of a warehouse. There's maybe a workshop there on the right, as well as a storage area that's accessible to industrial vehicles, trucks, and forklifts and whatnot. If you watch my previous video, you'll recognize this setting almost immediately.
Imagine just building a house here in the United States costs a fortune, right? It's a lot of money involved. So imagine the kind of money it would take to build these type of structures and also to develop an island and build these structures on it.
Immediately, this is the sterile kitchen that is almost uncharacteristic of Jeffrey Epstein. And we can see blacked out on the left-hand side there, if you'll remember, there was a photo of a naked infant playing in a sink. It's not clear whose child that was, but as we'll see later, that photo was not always there. We'll come back to that in a moment. This bathroom.
Hello, Sharice. How are you too? Your oracle says it's the white windowless van of islands. It sounds really strange, right? Thank you for that.
Appears to be the same one that we talked about in the previous video, belonging to a little pool house building on the western side of the island. I'm not sure what the significance of this particular photo is, but we can see that two of the nude portraits on the left and right hand side are blacked out. This photo shows Jeffrey Epstein standing next to Miroslav Lyshak, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Slovakia.
Now, as we go through the next photos, I want you guys to keep in mind, look at the powerful people that he had on the island, the big names, and also factor in their influence. And if you put all this together, it made Epstein one powerful man.
Yeah, it's too much to go into right now, but Jeffrey Epstein has been revealed to have had extensive ties to politicians in Eastern Europe, and he even had acquaintances who clued him in on things like real estate deals in Russia. The other notable thing about this, besides Jeffrey Epstein's just general slovenly appearance, which we can see throughout so many photos in this collection, are the fact that his pants are embroidered with the name Zorro, which is a clear reference to his Zorro ranch in New Mexico. Speaking of slovenly...
So again, this is not his only property. I showed you guys on a walk-by tour of his mansion in Manhattan that was right up the street from Donald Trump's Trump Plaza. So that was worth millions of dollars. He also had the ranch in Mexico, right? New Mexico. So think about all of the properties he had, the kind of currency that he developed, like where did it come from? In fact, he had over $1 billion in wires from different individuals to and from.
Here's Jeffrey Epstein in sweatpants arriving at what looks to be some sort of airport and shaking hands with an official who, judging by the emblem on his left shoulder, looks to be from the Department of Homeland Security. Now, I was puzzled by the significance of this photo as well as why Jeffrey Epstein would be shaking hands with such a person. You know, generally when you go through the airport, it's sort of a hostile experience. It's definitely not one where you're shaking hands with TSA agents or...
But it goes to show that, especially in America, we have this thing where if a person has enormous amounts of money, we befriend them first and then ask questions later. We also see it with Sean Diddy Combs, right? A lot of people have these terrible stories, but from the beginning, they saw the money, right? Not in every case, but money is the root of a lot of these evils that we see.
Immigration officials. And we can see on the right-hand side here that there's a official portrait hung up on the wall. And I was able to match that with this official portrait of Kirsten Nielsen, who was the director of Homeland Security from December 6th, 2017 to April 10th, 2019. So that means that this photo would have been taken some point between those two dates. And it's interesting not only just because he's shaking hands with this person, but also that they appear to be taking a photo together and that someone is taking a photo of them taking a photo. It's just a bizarre situation from every angle. This photo shows Jeffrey Epstein having dinner with a man who I was not able to find out who he was. He's probably of Middle Eastern origin, and the following photos will show that Jeffrey Epstein had extensive contacts in that area, but I wasn't able to find out exactly who this person was or where the photo was taken. The next photo illustrates a little piece of knowledge that is useful for any time you're looking through these Jeffrey Epstein photos. Anytime you see those leopard print chairs.
Wayne says, money talks, bullshit walks, brother. Absolutely. What a great point. Thank you, Wayne.
The photo was taken in New York City. The left-hand side of the photo depicts David Blaine, that famous magician, and he's doing card tricks for Thomas Pritzker, who is one of the most notable members of the Pritzker family, one of the United States' most wealthy families. They're sort of hotel chain magnates, and they also have holdings in a lot of different areas as well. To the right of him is Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, and to the right of Ehud Barak, as we're looking at him, is Woody Allen, the famous...
So how do you get a meeting with the Prime Minister of Israel? Take a moment and try to explain that one. So now you get a chance to understand that Epstein must have had some superior backing that's unheard of. In fact, you only hear really about Epstein and Maxwell, but in order to manage so many people, places, and things, you would think he'd have to have a team of workers, right? How easy is it to have people flying in and traveling and making all these business deals when it's just a Bonnie and Clyde type of situation that they try to paint this narrative?
Film director. The next photos show Jeffrey Epstein speaking with Steve Bannon, who at the time was a close advisor to Donald Trump. and is quickly becoming one of the most important figures in understanding Jeffrey Epstein's late life. Steve Bannon is in possession of hours and hours and hours of interviews and footage of Jeffrey Epstein that he was going to use for an unreleased documentary about him. And in case you needed further proof that Jeffrey Epstein was a narcissist and an egomaniac, we can see on the right-hand side of this executive desk that he has that Jeffrey Epstein has a full-size photo of himself, sort of a headshot, framed and facing outward for everyone to see. In this photo, Jeffrey Epstein speaks with Sheikh Jabor bin Youssef bin Yassim bin Jabor Al Thani, who is a prominent Qatari businessman involved in everything from insurance to the energy industry. He's been mentioned several times in Jeffrey Epstein's emails, mostly by the sort of nickname Jabor Y. This is a photo of Jeffrey Epstein and someone who I was not able to identify in Jeffrey Epstein's house, and Epstein looks to be wearing what's called a bisht, which is a traditional Arabic, specifically Saudi Arabian, piece of clothing. Coming back now to Jeffrey Epstein's very sterile island kitchen.
So just so you guys know, when I went to Dubai, certain places you go, they have you wear the native garb that way. So if you get a chance to go to Dubai, I don't know if you've been there before, but you see that type of guard quite frequently. They're very strict there. But again, Jeffrey Epstein has so much influence even in the Middle East.
And this is Sultan Ahmed bin Salayem. He's one of the most prominent connections that Jeffrey Epstein has in the Middle East, specifically in the Gulf. Salayem is the CEO of one of the world's largest shipping and logistics companies. It's called DP World. But we can also see in the right-hand side there that photo that we talked about earlier of the naked infant swimming in the sink is not there. It looks to be a painting in some sort of gilded frame. Jeffrey Epstein sits next to a girl or woman with her face redacted in this photo, taking some sort of air transportation, possibly a helicopter or plane. And one thing that's kind of interesting about this photo is that he has a bandage on the right arm, typically where you might do a blood draw or something like that. So I wonder if he was undergoing some sort of medical treatment at this point in time. Here's Jeffrey Epstein with bin Salayem, the man that we just spoke about, standing in front of a chalkboard with calculations that I'm way too dumb to know anything about. If you're a mathematician or a scientist of any kind and can clue me in on what these calculations are meant to represent, please do in the comments. I can see to the left side of Jeffrey Epstein the word DNA, but that's about all that I can do.
All right, so he has his hands on very intelligent people as well. AI Smart Cities, welcome in. Nice to have your continued support. Says Epstein was the impresario for the elite 1%. Okay, thank you very much. Gold Digger says, welcome in. And thank you so much, Gold Digger. Says, first things first, double tap the screen, like the video, subscribe, and think about becoming a member of the Watching the World 777 family. Thank you very much. Paul says, all Tarsus group members. Okay, thank you for that insight. John Doe makes a good point, says even though Epstein had all of this money, it did not save his life. Okay, Wayne touches on this as well, says there are big shots from both sides of the aisle who are involved, and that is why the actual list and details will never see the light of day. So you think today is a farce? You don't think we're going to see the files today? Today is the ultimate deadline for the Epstein files, and we're watching live to see if we can report on it. But according to Wayne, it's not going to happen. Okay.
Here's a gross photo of Jeffrey Epstein with 3 different girls around him seated in his New York City townhome. One of them has her arms wrapped around him. One of them is looking at something on the computer, and the other is being assisted by Jeffrey Epstein in putting her watch on. The thing about this photo that immediately piqued my interest is not the women, it's that creepy photo on the wall there. And I looked it up, and it actually belongs to the steeplechase in Coney Island, where Jeffrey Epstein is from, so it's probably a nod to his childhood. However, it is quite creepy. Jeffrey Epstein hosted some sort of meeting of the minds between his different scientist friends. The one is Mikhail Gromov, who is a scientist, mathematician. The other is Seth Lloyd, who is a mechanical engineer at MIT. In the middle is Martin Novak, who is a evolutionary biologist at Harvard. He's still there. However, he has extensive ties to Jeffrey Epstein that have been proven over and over.
In a way, Epstein, not in a sinister way, but he's similar to Elon Musk because he has all the money, but he has the reach to really touch and get information that he needs from pretty much every particular sector. Paul says, let's see, let me go back here. Paul says, your channel is very important. Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate your support. John Doe says, Epstein Rolodex of investors was released months ago. We know every name, still doesn't change the facts of being an investor or a business client doesn't make you guilty of Epstein crimes. Okay. So thank you for that point. Deborah says they have till 11:59 tonight. All right, we're going to stay up and look out. We probably won't get into details, but we're going to find out. We're going to try to get to the bottom of it. Paul says every month has the 20th, so don't be surprised if something kicks off just to keep it covered up. Okay, Stella says if you enjoy what you're watching, please like, share, and subscribe. Think about becoming a member. Uncommon is back. Uncommon Woman is always here to support, says, whose life will the information enhance, enrich? Exactly.
Again. And on the right-hand side, kind of looking down possibly at his phone, is Bin Salayem again. We get another angle of this meeting. I'm not sure where it took place. It looks like it could be some sort of faculty lounge or university setting. And some people have speculated in this final photo that the person sitting to the left of Jeffrey Epstein is Peter Thiel. However, I don't believe that to be the case. I think it could be Joshua Bach, who we spoke about in a previous episode. He had some very strange ideas about exterminating certain types of people, the ill and the elderly, for example, but I can't say for certain that that is him. The next file is a photo of an inmate request from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. This would have been during the time that Jeffrey Epstein was imprisoned, that so-called sweetheart deal down in Florida. I'm not sure what to make of this particular inmate request form. It says on the bottom here, although I'm not sure who wrote it and I can't make out every word, but it says, I wanted you to know something, 817, pulling you by the hand, learning to drive, GED, listening in the pink room, something and movie, made me say it and then didn't, Paris, Dubai, something blanked out, and then it says head on hand, and then a word I can't quite make out. On the right-hand side there, it says David Copperfield movie, and then on the bottom, the official response field, it says I love you. And then back up on the top, in the other field, it says love of my life. If you've been to prison and know what this kind of form is used for and have any theories about this, let me know.
Now, I just want you guys to know this is an independent channel. Thank you guys for every like, any support that you give, especially even when you comment. But just so you know, this is an unbiased channel. We don't have an angle. We just present the facts. So if you have your angle, that's fine. You can express yourself. The only thing that I ask is that you do not bully others. That's very important. And definitely, we do not support crime in any way. So don't take your violence to the street because someone disagrees with you.
The next photo is of a prescription medication called phenazopyridine. I had to look this up. I'm not a doctor, but it says phenazopyridine is used to relieve the pain, burning, and discomfort caused by infection or irritation of the urinary tract. It's not 100% certain to me that this is for Jeffrey Epstein, but on the left-hand side of the bottle there, we can see that it says 301 East 66th Street, which is a building that is owned by Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, and in which Jeffrey Epstein...
So even have his medication. And by the way, Deborah, I know Deborah's in the audience. Deborah, I drank water and I sound much better. Thank you, Deborah.
Epstein rented multiple units. This is a photo of two compound bows. I'm not sure whose they were or what the significance of them is. The following photos are from a billionaire's dinner attended by Jeffrey Epstein. And the photos have been previously released, but a lot of people didn't know about them because they're only on an archived website on edge.org, and you can look into that if you want to see the original photos. The conference was attended by very influential people such as Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, but in these photos released as part of this tranche of documents, we can see David Brooks, who is a New York Times columnist, and actually...
Now, I want you guys to keep in mind that Epstein was also mentioned by Elon Musk a lot. They also knew each other. We find from different occasions they were in the same place, perhaps not knowing how extensive their relationship was. But keep in mind that the earlier part of this year, it was Elon Musk that said that Donald Trump is the Epstein files. And this is after he had worked with Donald Trump on Doge, trying to save America. So I find that intriguing that Elon Musk is the person that really pushed off this whole big discussion about the Epstein files that we now hear about just about every day. Wayne says, or until they put up another distraction, which I think is a real deal. Wayne says, we will get to see what they want us to see. It's all in their best interests. Okay, very good. Gold Digger says, at one point, the former CEO of JP Morgan Chase Bank, Jess Stanley, had close ties professionally and personally with Epstein. Chase Bank ended up paying millions of Epstein's victims. Wow, thank you for giving us that breakdown. Stella says, please be mindful of your language due to the YouTube policies. Thank you, guys.
Who recently wrote a piece arguing that the Jeffrey Epstein files are not interesting and that America should basically not pay any attention to it and that it's a big spectacle. So his inclusion in these documents is quite interesting.
I think that's what a person would say if they're included in the documents, right?
We can also see Sergey Brin, who is one of the co-founders of Google. Here he is smiling wide with several bits of whatever he was eating in his teeth. This man is Salar Kamangar. He was the CEO of YouTube at the time. Here's Jeffrey Epstein giving new meaning to the words too close for comfort. Here's David Brooks again. Here's a photo of Jeffrey Epstein and Woody Allen, probably taken outside of Jeffrey Epstein's townhome in New York.
So you have Epstein with the CEO of Google. Imagine that. Also of YouTube. Man, oh man, Epstein really knew people in high places.
New York City. Behind them, I wasn't sure exactly who this man was. I saw some people speculating that it was Dick Cavett, who was a former television host. And I don't want to say with 100% certainty that it was him. However, I Googled Dick Cavett and Jeffrey Epstein, and it seems that Dick Cavett was penciled into Jeffrey Epstein's schedule at one time. And I also found this photo of him on the left-hand side here, wearing a very similar cap. If you zoom in on both of them, they both have the same braided leather bit along the brim there. Here is Bill Gates and a woman whose face is redacted in some sort of a hotel room.
Well, this photo did not age well for Bill Gates, especially with the new narrative in regards to Epstein. I'm pretty sure that this could be troubling for him.
Here's Bill Gates with a different woman who I have to say her body language looks incredibly uncomfortable. We can see in the glass-paned doors in the back that it says Signature Flight Support. Signature Aviation is obviously an aviation company, and Bill Gates, interestingly, in 2021, made a move with Blackstone and another hedge fund to acquire Signature. I'm not exactly sure where this photo was taken. Signature does have a presence in the airports both at Palm Beach and Newark Airport, which Jeffrey Epstein frequently flew into whenever he wanted to get to New York City. But it could be a different one, I'm not quite sure. Here's Jeffrey Epstein with Noam Chomsky, the left-leaning philosopher and thinker. And some of the final photos in this batch of documents are photos taken of passports and various forms of identification belonging to women. This first one is an ID of a woman. We can see the F there under the sex field from the Republic of...
So think about Epstein dealing with all these young girls from different countries. So who's the supplier? Like, how does he get the connection to all of these young individuals, and where are their parents at? How come we don't hear anything from the parents right now? We don't hear much of anything out of 1,000 individuals at least that were abused at the hands of Epstein and others, right? So this is what we're trying to get to the bottom of. There is a big press conference today of Epstein victims. I will be covering it later today, so stay tuned. We're going to listen to the victims and give them a voice.
Of Lithuania, but everything else is blacked out. The next two are from women from Ukraine. After that, there's an ID from someone from South Africa, and that is also a woman. Here we have a passport from someone from Ukraine, as well as one from a woman from the Czech Republic. This is an Italian ID, and we can see under the field 4C that MC means that the...
So he literally had female connections from across the world. Like, how can you manage that? John Doe says Gates should be brought up on international charges for all those children he caused to be unalived. Okay. Deborah says you are a valuable person, Mel. Thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate hearing that from you. John Doe says they are boring. They're pretty boring. Read if you ever have the chance to read them. No real big oh my God moments in there. Thank you very much for that.
Person concerned is from Macerata, which is in the middle of Italy, central Italy. This visa comes from Morocco. This photo appears to be one of Jeffrey Epstein's personal passport. It says the bearer was convicted of an offense against a minor and is a convicted offender. This photo is of a woman's passport from Russia, and this one is of Jeffrey Epstein's personal passport. Now we get into really some of the gross...
So apparently when you're committed some heinous crimes against children, it goes on your passport. Well, that's a good thing indeed, right? Let everybody know, announce what you're capable of doing.
Photos, the most shocking ones of this collection here. This appears to be of a woman's back, and on it is written, "She was Dolores on the dotted line," which is a quote from the book Lolita, that infamous, very controversial book about a pedophile. And Jeffrey Epstein, interestingly, as we just learned this year, owned a first edition copy of that book. There are quotes from this book written all over this woman's body, whoever she is. It says, "She was Dolly at school" in this photo. In the next one, it says, "She was Lola in slacks." In the next one, which is written on the woman's foot, and we can actually see the copy of Lolita in the back, it says, "She was low, playing low in the morning, standing 4'10" in one sock." So really just depicting this girl as a child. And the person who wrote this relishing in this depiction. It's really almost beyond belief and sickening. Written on this woman's chest is the beginning of that book. It's quite a famous beginning. It says, "Lolita, the tip of the tongue taking a trip of 3 steps down the palate to tap at 3 on the teeth." And as if that wasn't disturbing enough, we have a screenshot of someone's phone. I can't tell if maybe it's Telegram or WhatsApp, but whatever the case, it says, "I don't know, try to send someone else. I have a friend, Scout. She sent me some girls today, but she asks $1,000 per girl."
Okay, so there's the answer to our question. Epstein must have had a network of scouts that would go out and, well, they actually allegedly say Maxwell was guilty of the same thing, but it seems like he had way more than her finding these young girls to victimize. What a shame.
"I will send you girls now. Maybe someone will be good for Jay," probably Jeffrey. And then it says name, blanked out, 18 years old, something else that's blanked out, height blanked out, measurements blanked out, weight blanked out in kilograms. And here's something wild. That next word, Schengen, with the check mark next to it, I believe refers to the European system by which you can travel between certain states without border checks or various identification checks. This appears to be some sort of trafficking, and on the bottom it says departure city, something in Russia. It feels as though this year, 2025, has been one of the most explosive years in the Jeffrey Epstein saga, despite his best efforts to the contrary to conduct his activities in secrecy. It seems as though we've learned more about this man in the last 12 months than we have at any point since Jeffrey Epstein died. I'm hopeful that the forthcoming release of the so-called Epstein files gives us much more information on who Jeffrey Epstein was acquainted with, who he was working with, and what he was doing, so that the victims, the countless women who were impacted by his actions, can actually see some sort of justice done, even though Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay, so here's the real big problem, right? People say, well, why is it we don't hear from females in regards to these individuals who sit in high places? Well, you'd have to be in fear of your life, right? No one wants to have to live every day looking over their shoulder, worrying about if they're going to be unalived of some sort. So that's a key factor here. It might not be that these victims don't exist. It means that they are in fear, and oftentimes people are paid off. But we did learn in Sean Diddy Combs' case that even paying off victims doesn't really solve your problem, because when the feds come knocking, they come knocking, and they have access to everything. You have no privacy, not even yourself. Even with Luigi Mangione, I've been sitting in his hearing for the last 3 weeks. And when he was arrested, because of the nature of how he was arrested, they did a deep cavity search on him. So that goes to show that you do not own anything once you jeopardize your standing in the United States and you commit a crime. But it goes to show that also people do terrible things, and they don't mind doing it also to minors. In fact, there's a whole network of individuals trying to legalize and making steps to making PDFs have an easy walk, and they can express themselves with underage individuals, and how sickening that is. But again, that's a big problem in the United States, and you would probably be in around the world. Just as you saw in the video, they had a whole network of maps showing individuals how to bring girls from Russia all around. This is all alleged according to the intel that's coming forth from the Epstein files. But I can't wait. Hopefully by tonight at 11:59 p.m., we'll get a chance to see more from the Epstein files, because I think more people want to know about that than just about anything else. Epstein has been a big talk. In fact, we just saw Dan Bongino resign, so hopefully he'll shed more insight on his situation as well. And some people feel like maybe he took those steps because he was concerned in some way about Epstein, whether high or low, we don't know. Just to finish off, thank you guys for being here today. We have a few comments. I want to make sure I get to them. Virgil says, G, home pics from Epstein. Yeah, a lot of his private photos. Virgil says, Trump evidence, what's up, anything? So far, there's no evidence on the president in a sinister way, but there's so many groundbreaking photos coming out to show that he did have a pretty decent relationship with Epstein. So you would have to come to your own conclusion as to what you think about that. Paul says NDAs protecting these predators. Yes, they use that system quite frequently to try to get away with everything, even murder. Deborah says, wonder if they have new IDs, or are they still okay today? Quite possible. Great question, though. Paul says, unless you have a list of rich elites that want a brave new world. Yeah, they want a brave new world where they can practice all of their ill-natured fantasies without being inhibited by the law. What a shame. The fact that you have to make these laws to protect children, it shows you that individuals are capable of doing these terrible things, and that they desire what's not normal to the average person, especially if you learn the importance of right and wrong, which has become very subjective today. Haley says Joe Biden pardoned most of them. Okay, Haley, nice to have you here. Thank you guys for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I usually don't want to keep you past the lunch break, so we're going to end here, but we will be back later today. We're going to listen to the Epstein victims to try to give them as much voice as possible. And also we'll get a chance to see if there's anything to glean from this. We are quite concerned. Epstein's situation could unravel a lot of people that are in power, especially in the United States. But no matter who the Epstein files reveal, even like with Bill Clinton, nobody really cares. Everybody wants to know what Donald Trump did, if anything. That's the predominant point that everybody is seeking. John Doe says, great show, Mel. Thank you very much, John Doe. I hope you come back with us every day. I'm out of court. I covered Luigi Mangione for 3 weeks, and I came back with one idea, and that is that the police officers really screwed up this case. And I do think that the judge, in my opinion, I could be wrong, I think the judge could suppress some of the information. The police officers, they waited too long to Mirandize him. They lied to him, which that is legal under the Supreme Court. They can do that to get the truth out of a civilian. But they did not acquire a warrant, which was needed as well. So that's a key ingredient here. They also, I'd say they pretended there was a bomb. And I hope that using that word probably is not good for YouTube. So that's a bad idea. But at any rate, that's what came out at the hearing. And the key point to this whole scenario about the explosive is that they didn't take any steps to clear McDonald's. They had people sitting right next to where Luigi Mangione was being arrested. They didn't say, hey, you have to move. This might be an explosive. They let people walk by going to the bathroom, right? They didn't call the explosive squad, we'll call it, not once. The officer Wasser from Altoona, Pennsylvania, she never put on like a explosive vest to protect herself while she's snooping through the bag or examining the bag as well. All right, so we're going to leave it there because I know everybody has to get back to what they were doing, especially those that are on lunch break. Gold Digger says, yes, lack of getting a warrant. Yes, very important here. The judge has already suppressed a few items, so I think he's going to add more to the list. Now, what does that mean as far as the case go? Because there's 3 cases against him. I'm pretty sure they'll find another way to get him because he was standing on the streets in broad daylight. You just can't go around doing that, and I don't think anybody's going to let him go freely after that event. There will be a price to pay, but they'll have to prove that it was him indeed, which the average person believes. And I'll leave you with this last point. Right now, when I covered Luigi's case, there's not a lot of interest that I thought would be in it. He has a lot of fans that actually came to court, a lot of activists too that are out there because this is a death penalty case. But my theory is that right now people are just watching and they're just passing by the TV. They hear about Luigi. They say, oh, yeah, he did it. He did it. That's what they're saying. He did it. He did it. The minute they hear that the judge suppressed his gun, the journal, all of these items, that's when people will start going crazy. So that's what I suspect in this case. But I do think the man has some sort of mental issues. I'm not a professional, but from what I observed in court, every time someone would interact with Luigi Mangione, he would respond rapidly, like yesterday when his attorney came to talk in his ear and tell them that the next court date, they're going to come without him. He just immediately, like, he was, seemed like he was bothered by it, but he's very reactive. When they're putting his cuffs on at the end of the day, sometimes he gets all bent out of place. He just reacts really quick. I think something's going on with him, but we'll find out more about that during the trial, and I'll definitely be reporting on it. I have quite a few trials that I will be traveling to find out the real truth and come back to report to you as best as possible. So thank you guys that support the channel. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We want YouTube to understand that the News at Noon is back in town. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be back on tonight at 8 p.m. with Mama Flips. But before that, I will be on to cover the victims of, for the big press conference today, the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. So long and have a great day. I really do appreciate all the support. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. United we stand in love's pure might.